Hello my friends, welcome again to my video channel. Today we will start a new project with an old Drake TR7 transceiver. A friend of mine asked me whether I can check it for him. He got it rather cheap, so he asked me whether it's okay or what has to be done with it. I will check it, and I don't know what's expecting me. He didn't tell me that there's something wrong or so. He only asked me to check it, and especially to look at the output power on 10 meter, on 30 megahertz. It's a known problem with these transceivers that in the 10 meter band, beyond 28 megahertz, the output power is rather low. Sometimes even on 15 meter, that means 21 megahertz. So I will check this also, but in general I will do a check, an overall check, and see what happens, what's expecting me. Optically, this transceiver looks very clean, very good, pristine, nearly pristine. No scratches, no missing knobs. The PTO is, it's okay. Maybe some drops of oil will cure it, but in general it looks good. Okay, so also the fan is installed. We have here the version which needs I think 115 volts, so it needs a TR7 to be supplied, or 220 volt, I don't know exactly, but it's not a DC supplied fan. When we operate only with DC here, not with the TR7, then we will have the problem that the fan is not running. Here it looks also good. Yes, some dust, but in general I think it's okay. I will first fire it up without PA supply. I will only use the upper two for the internal electronic without power amplifier. The PA has a separate set of pins. So I would first start with the general supply and the general operation. I have one of the original plugs. It was one of my last ones. Don't have any more of these plugs. And there are two ends. One end is a thick end with two thick wires. It's for the PA, and the other two wires, which are a little bit thinner, is for the rest of the transceiver, for the receive part, and so on. First I will only energize these two pins to start with the transceiver, whether it's operating in general. I don't energize it in the brutal way, just switch it on. I switch it on and use a variable DC power supply starting with 0 volts DC and a current limitation in the range of 1.5 ampere or so. I see what the receiver draws, and then I increase the voltage. Okay, now we are at 10 volts, current is 1.5 amp, that's okay. 12, 13 volts, it's 1.6 amps. That's good. Oh. Knobs are dirty. Looks like there are many filters installed. That's the SSB filter. Don't know which bandwidth, I will check it. And this could be that in this setting for AM there is no filter. We will see. Passband tuning works. Calibrator. We are on LSB. Let's go to upper sideband. Oh, suddenly the bulb appeared back to life. Seems in general okay. I think a little bit weak, the indication. The S meter has no deflection. When I go to lower band, 7 MHz, the S meter should deflect. Or is the RF gain? No. When I reduce the RF gain manually, the S meter should come up. It doesn't. Okay. Fast, slow seems to work. Noise blanker. Don't know whether noise blank is installed. I have no noise. In general, it looks rather good. S meter. Pots have to be cleaned. I can check the bandwidth. .6, 3.1, so it's 400 to 500 Hertz. Oh, it's very narrow. The range of 4. Could be also in the range of 500, maybe a little bit less. Sounds like 300 or so. When I go to the overall filter, this 8-9 kilohertz. So I assume in this position that there's no filter installed. Okay, further checks. Let's open it. And now it's open, and as I see, the transceiver is, as we say, fully loaded. All 4 filters are installed. There's also an AM filter. Maybe it has 8 kilohertz or 6, I don't know. I will see. The other 3 are the SSB and CW filters. Here we have the noise blanker also installed. This one looks like a repair. This is not the original solution. There's a new circuit in it. IC, integrated circuit. I'm not sure whether this transistor is original. I think not. But doesn't matter. As I see, the TR7 works. The frequency indication is okay, so it was a good job. Some of these solder connections here. Okay. This is a weak point on the TR7. These solder connections they also have on the bottom layer some solder pads, and sometimes they break, and then you have the effect that it works and it works not. Ugly. These connectors here are also a weak point. I see here one of these pots is a little bit moved around, don't know why. But the owner moved it. It's for the 10 volt stabilization. These pots are always are bad because they can be touched unintentionally, and then they are offset. These are the voltages for the setting of the BFO for AM, CW, RTDY, USB, LSB, and this is for the 10 volt stabilization. There are some proposals in the net to replace these pots by 10 turn pots, which are much more safe against touching and missetting. Well, generally it looks rather good. Here I see an additional circuit board. This is not original, you can't see it, but I see it underneath. Maybe you can see it now, doesn't matter. I see on the box here there's a knob which is not the original knob for the Vox. Maybe there's a new pot in it and someone installed a new Vox circuit or so. I will check it later whether it's true or not, but in general it looks very good. There are no signs of any damage or tampering. Whoever was in, I don't see any big problems, so I'm quite sure that I can get it back to life. Maybe I have to clean the contacts or so and the pots, but in general it's okay. That's the output low pass filter for the PA, the antenna connector. Well, I look on the bottom side. And also from the bottom side, the transceiver looks very well. I don't see any signs of tampering, incompetent soldering or so. It's all, as I see, rather original. Of course I can't see all wires, but also here with the switches. Okay, if this is one of the switches I have to clean, but I will take off the front panel so I have a better access to it. But in general it looks okay. No visible problems, so I can do the troubleshooting first for the S meter, which is obviously not working. Maybe it's only a problem of the contact, so I will take off the front panel so I have better access to all pots and to the switches, clean them. Maybe if there's a reason why the S meter does not work, I will check it whether it works in the output mode, in transmit mode as power output meter. I don't have the schematic in my brain whether this S meter is fed over a switch or so. I think not, as I know it, but I will check it and see what the problem is. Another problem I've forgotten to mention is of course the contacts, the PCBs which are under slots. These old AMP contacts are rather bad. They also need cleaning, and that's what I will do first. Clean all knobs, pots, the contacts, and then I see whether we still have a problem. The transceiver is prepared to remove the front panel. The front panel has to be bent down a little bit by 90 degrees, so it's a good idea to place it on the corner of the workbench so it can be bent down. I see here some ICs, additional ICs which have sockets, others have not. Don't really understand why. It looks like there was a modification, whether it was done in the factory or whether it was soldered later. I will see when I take out this PCB. It's necessary to take out the TR7. When I remove the front panel, then the PTO, which is here, comes up, and so the TR7 has to be removed. And on the other hand, I need access to the PCBs underneath this TR7 to clean the contacts. So anyhow, I have to remove all and everything. The end caps are removed. They are a little bit damaged, partially broken. It's always the same story with these end caps. They break over the years. These screws have to be removed. On the other side, the same three screws, and the knob, the band setting knob, also has to be removed. Now this front panel moves free, and then I can unplug these connectors here and take out the TR7. And now a small tip. Whenever you work on a TR7 or an R7, you need a service kit like this, with extenders and some hooks made from strong wire. You can bend them yourself. It's not a problem. Then it's easier to take out such a circuit board. It can be done rather easily using such holes. For example here, where there is no wire underside, no trace which can be damaged, and then you can take them out. Also here where there's a plug, and you need some force from this side to get it loose, to get it out. I have to unplug this also. Okay, it's a little bit of work. This wire, of course, it needs also to be unplugged, then it can be fed through. And here also this blue wire, there's a pin. I think that's it. I can take it out carefully. In the center here is one screw which has to be removed. It squeezes the whole PCB down. And now we can start. Here's a plug, here's a plug, here's one. So we can begin carefully. Okay. Plug it. Can also be unplugged. And then we need to remove this grommet and feed it through. Doesn't it go through? Hey! Okay. That's it. Now we have a look into the heart of the machinery room. We see here this additional board. Ah yes, there's a new pot. This pot here is not the old one, this is a new pot. So we have here a new PCB, but I don't think there's a documentation in the paper I have. I will have a look at it. But this is not the topic in the moment for me. Now we can take away this front panel and bend it down without breaking wires. Okay, this one. Okay. Now we have access to all switches, pots, contacts. With the S meter, it's okay. Maybe it's going via this switch here. Well, I can clean it, lubricate it. I see here this PTO has a ground wire, the modification which is made unnecessary to avoid any problems with the grounding here. The grease looks rather good. Maybe some drops of oil will help. Now it's time to clean the contacts of these two switches, especially this switch here, the mode switch, where we had the problems. It's a little bit difficult. It has 3 layers. The first layer here is rather accessible, but the second the second and third layers are underneath, so it's difficult to get access to it. I need a spray can with some hose. Then I can spray it into and try to move the switch. Clean the contacts with this. And what is very important, after you did this, to wash out all the residues of the cleaner, of the oxidation and so just don't leave it and let it dry out. Then you have still the problem. I use a contact wash, which has no residues, and so it's the best solution for this. For a first check of the transceiver, I installed here the jumper board instead of the TR7. This connects the output of the digital control board to the translator board. So there's no digital display in the moment, it doesn't matter. And when I switch it on, okay, the S meter is alive again. There are many I think everything needs here some... Here's the culprit. This is a pot for the 12 volt. You see? Oh, 10 volt, not 12, so it's 10 volt. Yes, there's a lot which has to be done. That's the end of part 1. You see, there's some success with the switches. The S meter works, but all boards have to be taken out. This has to be repaired. Maybe I have to swap all the other pots also. I think it could be a good idea to replace them by 10 turn pots. I hope I have some. If not, I will buy some new ones. It's not so expensive, and it's a good idea to replace these pots. They are all ugly, and the problem is whenever you do a work and you touch them, then you have to do a realignment. Okay, stay tuned, stay healthy, see you on this channel.